Hello, and welcome to another Top 10 episode of Backlog Brain Rot. Today, we will be discussing the top 10 characters in the Trail in the Sky series. I'm Parrot. I'm going to be steering the ship today and leave most of the analysis to this trio of Trails experts with me. Straw Hat,
Konnichiwa, Mina-san.
Connor,
Heyo.
and a very special guest, Daloofus.
No, I'm not that special, but thank you for having me.
So today is going to be a little different than our normal ranking episodes so far. Instead of this being a list made exclusively by the members of the podcast, this is actually a combined list that was made by all the members of our Discord. So since this is Connor's brainchild, I'm going to throw it to him so we can explain exactly how this list was made.
Yeah, so it wasn't too complicated. It was a little more involved in the persona list where we had a set number of characters that all nicely fit into 10. But this time it was anyone with a portrait. So I just had everyone send me their top 10, and it didn't matter really who, as long as they were a portraited character in the game. And then first place got 10 points, and then incrementally down to last place, which would get 1 point. If you didn't vote for a character, that was just a 0 on the record. And add it all up, and that got us the full list of 21 characters that everyone voted for.
So in other words, if you guys have problems with this list, it's also your fault. You can't just blame us this time because it's partly you who did
I'll find a way.
You could also just say, Connor didn't do his math properly, but I will be releasing the Excel spreadsheet I saved everything in.
So we can't say that you fudged the numbers to get what you wanted.
Well, you can if you find the fudge first.
If Gilbert is number one, I'm deleting this episode and it will never get posted. I'm telling you this right now.
Well, we might as well just give up recording now. See you later.
Oh, shoot.
If anyone put Gilbert, I might leave right now.
Well, I'll let one little secret out right now. Not a single person voted for Gilbert.
Okay, saved.
The world is right. I thought Ryochi actually does like Gilbert. Maybe not. I'm sorry if you don't, Ryochi, but I thought somebody did.
Oh, I love Gilbert too, and yes, I think it's Ryochi and I. But the whole point is, F you, Gilbert. He's just so hateable. It's lovable.
Yeah, you know what? If this was a top 15, he might have made my list.
Oh no, Parrot, no.
All right, so before we get to the list itself and a few honorable mentions, I thought it'd be fun to point out a few interesting facts about the total list and all the different votes that people had. So, out of the 10 characters on our top 10, 9 of them are playable. There is one core party member that did not get a single vote by anybody. Can anybody other than Connor guess who that would be?
Zin.
You are correct.
Yeah, that's easy.
It's I feel bad too because every time, like, if you play the Evo games, he's not even in the openings of the games because Japan's just it's just Zen. So
I think in the overall fan base, Zen might be pretty like decently popular, but I just don't think he's a good unit to use. You know what I mean?
He's just outshined in a lot of ways in the game.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Zen. Kuro is coming to help you. So.
Oh, for sure. I liked him more in the first 10 minutes I saw him in Kuro compared to the entirety of the Sky series.
Yeah, he's just a little forgettable because you told me who didn't get a vote. I'm like, which one was that again? And it has only been like 2 years since I played it, so I just did not even remember him. Like, oh yeah, that big guy.
Also, fun fact, in the UK, his name is Zane.
I was going to ask you that. What's the deal with that?
I'm guessing it's just a translation thing because I have the art book and his name's Zane because it's from I guess, I don't know, they did the UK version or something, but I was like, Zane? What?
I have a feeling something similar is going to happen to Agnes and Kuro because her current official Romanization spelling is the French word. So that's not going to go very well.
Honestly, Zane's a cooler name, so maybe if they kept that name, maybe he would have got a vote or so here. Yeah. So as Connor mentioned before, we had 21 different characters get a vote, which is, a pretty good sample size, I would say. A lot of different votes. But there were 4 characters who got one singular vote each. Weirdly, 3 people on this podcast right now had votes in this category. So Connor was the only person to pick the brash rival for Joshua's love, Josette.
Oh.
Mm.
She's like, I just love her whole ordeal, and I think she's cute.
Yeah, I think Daloofus and I both feel the same. We just weren't really big Josette fans, I gotta say.
I think I like Josette more in like Cold Steel 3, where she's not a little brat. You know what I mean? She was cute overall in Sky.
I like her whole story of being like the fallen nobles as well. That, but it's not like, they turned to demon worship or got involved in a cult like your typical anime fallen nobles. This is like, we got into debt. I guess we're pirates now. And then they slowly have to claw their way back into or carve their niche in society again. It's really fun.
Yeah, I do like her the best of the family, I will say. I'm guessing none of her brothers got any votes, so.
I think her older brother's pretty funny. He's like the when they get like everything happens to him.
Yeah, he just has all these great ideas, but he just gets taken advantage so much.
Yeah, if this was a top 15, she might have also made my cut there. Because I thought she was pretty entertaining. I liked her rivalry.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
So Straw Hat also had one with the enforcer Campanella.
What? Nobody else had Campanella?
No one but
Nope.
you.
Oh my goodness. I love maybe I know they get a better starring role in later games, but
if we did like an Ouroboros top 10, he'd probably make it, but
he's just such a troll. That's why I like him so much. And he's also like in Sky, I remember seeing him for the first time, and he stands out a lot. And he's one of my favorite characters in the whole series. But of course, he's not really that involved till later games after the Crossbell arc. But he's in Sky, he's the Grandmaster's right hand man. So I'm shocked nobody else had him at all.
I think that troll aspect is kind of why my reaction whenever I see Campanella on screen is just, get out of here, Campy. Go be mysterious somewhere else. Sorry, but it's just, I want him to shoo away every time I see him.
Like, even just considering Sky, I kind of like Walter even more than him.
Yeah, Walter's the best.
But it's funny. He has one of the trolliest fourth wall breaking moments in Sky the Third, where he looks at the camera and's like, "Hey, you want to see more about this? I guess you really can't, though." It's so good.
That actually might be one of my favorite parts of the entire series.
I know exactly, but he didn't make your list.
But
yeah, hey, it's not just Daloofus. It's everybody. Literally everybody. No one else likes him but you, I guess.
He's cool, but not that cool.
I'm already angry.
Sorry.
I just started.
Speaking of trolls, I was the only person to put the thief, Blue Blanc, who's maybe the most annoying character, but that's why I put him.
That is someone who actively trolls you as the player.
I think the main reason people don't like Blue Blanc is because everybody hates his stupid quests.
I did them all too. I was like, oh yeah, me, I don't do all the side missions, but I did them.
I don't think I've legitimately completed a single one of his. This is funny. I hate riddles. Look it up. They're like the one kind of puzzle I just don't gel with.
They were probably one of the more frustrating things to do in like a platinum run. Because you do all these quests and it's like, I don't want to have to look up where this thing is.
I always do all the quests anyways, unless they're like secret ones I somehow missed.
Right.
Yeah, I just love his trolling nature.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And then, so that means the three main hosts of the show all had a very unique person. And the other person was Kopi, who voted for the ditzy photographer Dorothy, another person that would have made my top 15.
I like Dorothy. I almost put her on the list. It's funny because, I'm not going to say it here because it would be a spoilers, but Daloofus and I did have a conversation about, I thought she had a bigger part in the picture later on.
Set on that.
I was, but clearly I was not correct.
Lamau.
I love those. It's just pure comic relief characters. That's why I really like her.
Yeah, her gag was one of the funnier jokes of the whole series as far as I'm concerned. Shoot it like it's porn. I was like, oh my gosh.
I don't remember that.
Well, that's not exactly what anyone says, but every time she starts taking a picture, she does that thing where she starts talking at it like it's some sort of glam shot or whatever.
So speaking of wild votes, Connor was able to analyze all the different votes and find out who the most and least deviant voters were.
Yes, and for this, I tried a few different things and settled on measuring it by each of your picks distance from your list to where they actually ended up on the full list. So if you voted, say, one character in your third slot, third place, and they actually ended up in the 17th place, you'd get 14 points for that of deviancy. And then on top of that, for each of the actual top 10s that you missed, you would get their position in additional points to make up for the fact that everyone else on your list is just 0. So you don't really have a distance to measure them by. And I will reveal the least deviant is on this podcast with us, and that's Straw Hat.
Thank you.
Straw Hat had the list closest to the actual top 10 at 29 points.
Campanella sounds like my only astray.
And you had Campanella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Campanella was 13 points for you. So that was almost half of your score. Brandon was following you a close second with 30 points, and then RCT was the third least deviant. And then on the other end of the spectrum was also a host on this podcast, and I was the most deviant with a score of 78.
So a lot higher than Straw Hat.
So that will be revealed progressively over the course of this episode.
So the deviant score is like a golf score.
Pretty much, depending on how normie you want to be. I'd say middle of the pack is probably the most desirable position.
Where were Daloofus and I? Ballpark.
Daloofus was the middle of the pack. And
Wow,
Parrot, you were actually the fourth least.
Whoa, Parrot's usually a chaotic list maker, so...
Yeah, Parrot had 36 and Daloofus had 46.
I had to step up my game.
I'm still ahead of any of you by at least 22 points. Followed by Ryochi at second most deviant, 61 points. And then Gremlin, no surprises here, the only one who hasn't finished all 3 games, at 57 points.
Yeah, that checks out.
Where did Addy finish? Because I figured he would be kicking the deviancy list up.
And you were absolutely incorrect, because Addy was the 5th least deviant at 38.
Congrats.
He had a normie list.
Wow, he's not going to like to hear that.
I know, he's going to be mad.
You could interpret it as meaning that you really are a normie and not that much of a weeb.
True. Except Straw Hat's number 1, so...
This is true. So what does it mean? That will be left up to the users to interpret. I only deal with the numbers.
Very, very diplomatic of you.
It's not true at all. I'm judging so hard.
All right, so how about we get started on the actual list then, now that we have all the interesting numbers out of the way. Before we get to the top 10, we'll do a few honorable mentions, those that just missed the cut. Quickly, I'm going to just shout out number 17, Sig, the White Falcon. This should have been higher, and we need to do better.
I know.
Yep.
It's hard with 10 characters. I love Sieg, but...
I really didn't consider Sig.
He has a portrait.
Yeah, 17 is far too low.
Addy was his biggest fan.
What did you know what he had him at?
Quick check. 5. Or no, 6th place.
That is dedication. I need to be more like Addy, I guess, in this one specific instance.
Yeah, be specific there.
So now we'll jump from 17 down to a more reasonable number 12 for the honorable mention. And that is the child genius and tinkerer, Tita Russell.
Oh, come on.
So Daloofus, you had her the highest out of the 3 people.
Really, guys?
Yeah, you had her the highest out of the 3 people on
love
the show
Tita.
that are not me.
He is great. She didn't make my list.
She did not make mine either.
I'm not a big fan, Daloofus, you know that.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll be the number 1 fan.
This is a game with like 30 good characters and over 10 great ones. So
true.
Some cuts are going to have to be made, but I really loved her kit as far as the gameplay went. Sky FC was kind of painful for me. until I got Tita, and then it's like, oh, some crowd control. Finally.
So what did you like most about Tita, Daloofus?
I think in general, I really like Tita's family situation. Like, she's from the family of like really renowned engineers. Her grandpa is like insane. Her mom is also insane, and her dad somehow is very normal. And she takes after her family and like the brains and everything. And she's just this well-adjusted kid who is amongst like these, how do I put it, like just insane engineers, in my opinion.
She's a normal person among
Yeah.
eccentrics.
Yeah, and whoever did the list, they would also notice I put Erica Russell in her own tier because I love her so much.
She's 14th, so she wasn't that far much further down herself.
Yeah, it's just, I really like just the whole chaotic family situation. It was so different from like how Estelle and Joshua's situation was. And I find that a lot more entertaining.
It was chaotic, but also not like antagonistically chaotic. It was just, these are very eccentric people, so it's hard for them to operate like a normal family or an expected healthy family.
And you could tell the love for each other they have for each other and their families.
Yeah, I kind of look for that. I look for that kind of stuff when it comes to like characters in JRPGs. Like I have an appreciation for well-adjusted families, but I like the families that are just like off the rails, but they still function.
Yeah, those are fun.
So Daloofus, you're gonna have another character to defend because number 11 is another that is not on either of the three of your lists. And that is the A rank bracer and Olivier's muse, Shara Harvey.
Are you guys kidding me right now?
She just missed my list. She was number 11. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're good. Do I honestly have to defend Shara?
No, you don't have to defend her, but you know.
So Straw Hat, I'll call you Straw. But you know how much I like that
type, yes.
That type of character. Yeah, so Sarah was a big favorite of mine, and Shara was also, for almost the same reason, my favorite character, because just like the hot femme fatale, like mentor characters, I'm just kind of like all about that. She's in the same way that I like other similar characters. She just, goes at her own tempo. She drinks, she has fun, but she also has that dark backstory she doesn't want to talk about. She's not a robot. She feels like a human being. I don't know. I just really like Shara.
Yeah, I liked her development over the course of the series, where she was that mentor character, but unlike, say, Cassius, she was one who was at a attainable level, or like she was eventually at the same level as the party as she was sorting out her own problems. So that was a nice aspect about her.
I think another reason I really like her is because of her interactions with Olivier, because Olivier was very high on my list. Yeah. And it just like honestly made the game for me, because I was just waiting for that sweet like interaction between the two, because it was just so wholesome and funny.
Yeah, they have a great dynamic, of course, which is shown even later in the series.
It's quite entertaining.
So we can get onto the proper full top 10 now. Our number 10 is another that Daloofus had the highest, but they made the top 10 this time. And that is the enforcer with the very mysterious, important past, Leonhardt.
AKA Louvet.
Yeah, Louvet.
Yeah, Louvet.
Actually, I had him on the list too, I thought.
You did. You swapped him out, but you were only had him at 2.
So go ahead, I guess, and tell us about him, Daloofus.
I think originally when I made my top Trails overall characters, I had Louvet as my number one favorite male, but I opted to put him back one spot. I just thought Louvet was just an all-around badass character without being too flashy or trolly, aka your favorite one on your list. Even like the other enforcers in Anguis and Ouroboros like fear him. He's just that powerful. What was the town he came from? The tragedy, like that whole situation. Everybody involved.
Hamel,
yeah, the Hamel tragedy. Everyone involved. It's such like a highly like sad event in history, and he was like at the center of it.
He's like the one character. I don't know if anybody like hates him. I've never, like, of all the Trails fans, I'm always like, oh, I just hate that character. It's like the heroes all like him, the villains all like him. He's just a great guy, a great character. He gets his redemption arc, but he has a reason for doing all these things. And he's also like a mentor to two of the main characters in the series, which I'm sure we'll be talking about at least one of them later, probably both, but he's pretty much the big brother figure for them.
Yeah, even though I don't super care for Joshua, I thought their interactions were what made like the game for me in a lot of sense, because Joshua needed that rivalry, and he had to overcome someone in his past that like kind of did him dirty or whatever, or thought did him dirty.
Yeah, I like that dynamic he had of everyone looking at him as this high, respectable figure, because that's how he always operated, which is always fun for me with an antagonist. Is like the antagonist isn't necessarily someone who's playing dirty or doing evil things. It's someone who has very different goals from you and is, at the start of the story at least, better at achieving them. So that's pretty fun. My biggest complaint with him in Sky isn't because of him, it's just the lack of him, in my opinion. I felt like if he was there a bit more, or like they had a bit more scenes with him, I probably would have clicked more. But as it stands, felt like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, he didn't really have much longevity in Sky because obviously, can we give spoilers out? I don't know.
Yeah, you can spoil
So like,
Sky.
He dies, sacrifices himself at the end of Sky 2. I also think it's interesting what you just said there. Like, he may not have had the best reasons for being how he was, like, in Ouroboros, but, like, he still kind of, like, understood where he's coming from. I also understood where he's coming from when he kind of deceived the party when he was masquerading as Lawrence. I think that was his name.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Toughest fight in Sky 1.
Mm-hmm.
Was
did
it?
Did you guys beat that fight?
Yeah, that's where I put all the 4 characters in 4 corners and cast spells at them. That's how I beat them.
I was playing on hard, so if it was a fight that I didn't actually have to like finish it, I just had to get past a certain health bar or something, I just went with it because that game was completely just BS on hard.
Yeah, you don't have to win the fight. Like, it'll end if you die and you just progress, but you get like an achievement if you beat it.
Well, I don't care in the slightest for achievements, so I probably let him steamroll me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just gave up. I'm like, oh, I don't need to beat this. Kill me. So our number 9 is the Squire of the Church and one of the main protagonists of Sky the Third, Reese Argent. Connor, you had her 5th on your list.
Ooh, respect.
Yeah, I like Reese.
Same.
In a lot of ways, she's kind of parallel. Sky Third's parallel to Estelle. I liked her calmer, almost more mature demeanor, and the way I put it, a very observant personality, where she's actually thinking about what everyone else is trying to go for and what they really mean.
Yeah, she also has the cute little thing with food too. Like, she's obsessed with food and she gets like really angry and competitive when it comes to food.
Yes, she's got that adorable side to her personality, and much like Estelle, she has her lizard brain modes where she's just like, the solution is destroy it, and she runs around with a big sword and a great combat kit. It's basically the Laura of the Sky arc, so that's a big plus in my book.
That's like an interesting comparison.
Yeah, I think she was number 8 on my list, if I remember right.
I'm actually kind of surprised you guys had her higher than me, and I actually like her a lot.
She gets well, we'll talk about it later with Kevin, but it's like both those characters, I feel like everybody just wants more of them all the time because they're so sprinkled throughout the whole series.
So how did you guys operate in Sky Third? Was she like in your party all the time, or
pretty much whenever I could?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kept her in the main party with Kevin.
So admittedly, I kind of like favored her with like giving her the best items I could, but she absolutely destroyed everything.
Yes, she's very, very powerful. I think the only one I might have switched her with at times was Annalise. Mm-hmm. I don't entirely remember what I did for the most of that game. but she was definitely one of my mainstays.
That brings us to our number 8, the jerk with the heart of gold, Bracer, Agate Krosner, who Straw had 7th.
Yeah, I really like Agate. I'm like, how do we say his name now? But I really like him. He's such a good character, especially throughout Sky. He really grows because when you first meet him, he's kind of like you're stuck up, out of reach. Like you're not competitors, but you kind of are in the Bracer Guild. And then he just kind of grows over time. And then you get his backstory with his sister. And then you do have like the little budding romance with Tita, which I'm not the craziest over, but he really does open up to Tita, which is the one person he kind of lets his guard down around, but he just tries to he is your typical like shonen type character where he's like tough and he wants to try to just take on everything himself with no help from others, but he really just changes by the time you get to the end of the Sky trilogy and even into later in the series. But he's also really strong. He's probably the physically strongest character. I don't know, he might be a little weaker than Zen, but I still used him over Zen when I could. So
he was definitely higher on the power side. I remember that much from using him.
He had some good crafts too, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was what really made his kit work, was that he had if I remember correctly, he had one that could like raise his CP. So he was one of the few characters who could reliably use his S crafts.
Yeah, so at the cost of his own health, which, if I remember correctly, could kill you.
Oh, yes. Probably could, and I absolutely did.
So did you guys have him on your list at all, or no?
Not on mine.
Nope.
Although I do respect the lad. He is kind of like a misfit in the cast, in my opinion. Maybe other than like Tita or something, because everyone else has this like martial capability. And then there's just Agate, who's just a thug who can swing a sword hard. Or
yeah,
whatever.
Like, he has like a buster sword.
Yeah, that is a good point that most of the characters do have some sort of legitimate formal background in martial arts, and then he's like, big sword, go swing, swing, swing.
Hey, it works.
It does.
And when he's in a pinch, he just gets really mad and he can swing it harder.
Yeah. I did like his development in Sky SC. It just took a while to get there.
Because I remember he like just goes running after the dragon and tries to take him on himself, and it's just like, why are you being so dumb?
Well, he's acting like me. That game. I have big sword, therefore dragon can die.
Yeah, so he's just anybody playing a video game, basically.
Very much.
He could be any JRPG pro tag, but he's not the pro tag.
So we don't actually have a number 7. Instead, we have a tie for number 6.
This is where the true waifu wars of the list are.
When I was looking through this list, I was pretty pleased that these are the two characters that ended up completely tied.
Yep.
So I just flipped a coin to decide who we'll talk about first. So we're going to go with Annalise, the cheerful bracer who fancies herself to be Estelle's rival. Connor, you had her at your number 1.
Whoa.
Yes, she is my number 1 character. And my reason is cute as justice. And I refuse to elaborate further.
No elaboration needed.
Nope.
I had her number 6, I think. So right in where'd you? Oh, you had her 10, right, Daloofus?
Yeah. Did you pick up my list?
Well, you sent it to me, so I saw it. I was just gonna say, yeah, Annalise is great. She gets not enough screen time, of course, but that beginning part with her and Estelle is one of my favorite parts. Openings of any of the Trails games, like you're just pretty much out with her training.
A fun opening.
Yeah, and she says this line after you win. I'm trying to remember what it is now. It's like, I used to say it all the time, but it's been a while since I played it now.
I kind of vaguely remember what you're thinking about, but I can't remember it either.
I remember it. She's like, we're invincible, or she's like, I'm invincible, or am I? Or something like that.
Invincible, or am I?
She's the character that I think is the most criminally underused in the whole series, because she's in the first game for like near the end of the game. You see her, and then she's in the second game. Probably that's her most appearance. And then Sky Third, I guess she does appear too, but she's She also
Sky
has a lot.
Third is the best one for her because she's one of the first party members you get.
That's true.
She's also very good in that game too.
Yes, she is.
I was gonna say too, I think a lot of reasons why we all like her too is because she has so much mystery about her. Well, we know who her mentor is. It's her. Is it her grandfather?
Yeah, it's either great or just a grandfather.
Yeah, which you'll find out more about in Cold Steel. But she has those ties, and I just really want her to come back into the series.
Mm-hmm. I will point out another little factoid about the stats. Only 4 characters got top 10, or got a top 1 vote, right? And 3 of those are all in the top 3. Annalise was the only character to get a number 1 vote who wasn't in the top 3. She had 2 of them.
Ooh, who else gave her number 1?
Kobe. So us
Respect.
super fans pretty much carried her into her position.
You fudged the numbers to make sure she tied for 6.
Kobe helped. Cute as justice. No further elaboration given.
I like her because she's like whatever best friends with Estelle, and they're both ridiculous, and they both make fun of each other for the same things that they do. They both get riled up really easily, and whoever does it first just gets clowned on.
Fair enough. It's got true.
So our second number 6 is the heir to the throne, the undercover princess, Chloe. This one is interesting because Straw, you had her the highest out of the 3 of you, and you only had her at 10th.
You're welcome, Ryochi, because I know how much you love Chloe. So, yeah, she's... I think the best thing about her is obviously the first time you meet her, you don't realize who she is, which is the crown princess of Liberl. But she's just helping out in an orphanage, and then you also go help her out at school. And I kind of figured there was more to her than meets the eye, but I don't remember at the time if I knew that she was going to be as important as she ended up being.
And then there's us Chads who played through Cold Steel 4 while ignoring all the warnings and all knew exactly who she was when we first met her.
Wait, what order did you play the games in?
Cold Steel 1 through 4, and then I went back to Sky and then played through Crossbell. Yep.
That would be a bit confusing.
I know. It's
not really, actually. Cold Steel 4 does a pretty good job of going, hey, this is something that happened in another game. Here's the important parts. Okay, moving on.
But yeah, also one thing I really liked was there wasn't really a rivalry with Joshua, with her and Estelle. Both vying for Joshua's attention because she pretty much resigned it immediately. But I also like in Sky Third where she does like confess to him, and she pretty much knows he's going to reject her. But I just think she's a really good character. And she has the best pet, of course. So
see, I did like the fact that she was all, you knew that it was going to be Estelle and Joshua, but she just always was like making sure that, hey, the threat is known that I could take him if you're weak. So it's just that conflict between her normal character and then that aspect of her was always very fun.
Chloe was a really timid character, and I have a special place for timid characters because obviously I like Tita. I think the one really sad fact about her, though, is Olivier, like, just straight out outclasses her completely.
As like an art caster, you mean?
Yeah, she was just like he's just an upgrade.
I think in Sky 1 I did use both of them because arts are obviously really good in Sky, but she was a good healer. I would mainly use her to heal, I think.
I did not. My healer was Estelle, and so I just had double arts by the end of the game.
That would work.
Yeah, that would also work. I actually may have done that for a while too.
Gave me a little bit more variety than just Olivier doing his at highest damage nukes possible. Chloe would cover a slightly more nuanced breadth of spells.
There was one game where Chloe actually had some very nice crafts, and then I think the very next game her crafts were like really bad, and
it was probably FC to SC.
Yeah, I felt like they did that with a couple of characters where they were in a really nice spot, and the next game their crafts were like, why did they changed it from being like an area to like a really little line or something? It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, this character's kind of ruined now.
I do remember one specific instance of that, except it's in the Crossbell arc where Lloyd had this super overpowered self buff, and then they toned it back in Azure. And I'm like, yeah, I might kind of understand that one.
It's also like how Elliot in Cold Steel just gets progressively worse as you get through the series because he has resounding resonance beat. Like in the first 2 games is like so good, and then by the end I'm like, you're the worst character in the game. I'm sorry.
My poor boy.
Talking about Cold Steel, I remember them not leaving Gaius alone the entire series. Every single game, Gaius had different arts or different drafts.
Like, just leave the man alone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone else is almost the same. Gaius could not, like, he was just changing.
Poor man.
So that breaks our tie at 6. So we'll go on to number 5. The second of the 2 main characters in Sky 1 and 2, the dark and mysterious Joshua Bright. He is not on any of your lists.
Yes! I knew it.
So I'm going to pass it to Connor.
Whoa.
Yeah, so Joshua was... I mean, he was a pretty strong character, I guess. He was
one of the characters in the game. And
I think I've probably given comments here. I probably liked him more than most here. I do have a bit of a soft spot for the edgy, shadowy past boys. And I really liked his kit. So I was always happy to have Joshua in the party. I gravitate towards those high single target damage, high crit, high avoid, shadow step and thief type characters. Those are always super fun. The twist with him at the end of FC was actually something that I had been surprised by. So that whole arc with him and then going into SC with everything going on there was a lot of fun. I am one of those people where if I had a choice, I would have had him go with Josette.
Oh, that's interesting.
Controversial take.
Parrot's probably seething right now, but...
Am I misremembering? Josette actually had a crush on him?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, she did. And Sky,
I didn't know it was like 3 people had a crush on him. It's been
pretty
a while.
much.
He's dark hair. Everybody loves the black-haired boys in Trails. But yeah, I think my favorite things about Joshua are actually just the stuff story-wise about him, like his past, the twist at the end of FC, like you said, Connor, and then just like his whole ties to Ouroboros and just like that. I also, of course, one of the best scenes with Estelle and Joshua are at the beach where he just like breaks down emotionally. But that's the thing, like otherwise, like Joshua is very much the straight man in Sky first chapter. And then after that, I feel like after his big story arcs, he just doesn't really have anything interesting happen other than he's with Estelle.
Yeah, that actually is probably why I like him. He was not enough to be on my list, but I just wasn't expecting to be the one defending him here. I do actually like the straight men characters. I like people who know what's going on and are on top of things, and so having Joshua be that in comparison to Estelle let me enjoy Estelle more for being completely out of the loop, because Joshua was always sitting there in the back going, okay, fine, we'll just go with it, because he knew exactly what was going on. But I liked that dynamic.
I think that what you were just talking about is the reason why I don't particularly care for him, because he sort of acts like he's more mature than he is, or more important than he is. Because I think I talked to Straw Hat about this before, possibly, but I don't like it when characters try to killjoy other characters for them being like silly or something. And because Estelle, as lively as she is, she kind of gets out of hand, and Josh was always the one that's like, Estelle, you're being stupid. Calm down. Well, maybe not that harshly, but he just kind of brings her down, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that, because I mean, the straight men, you do need them obviously for the comedic characters to work. Because I think of Shinpachi and Gintama, he's one of the most important characters. I guess just compared to a lot of the other guys in Trails, he just isn't one of my favorites. I feel like maybe he's just not as developed. I mean, it feels weird to say that because he has obviously such a huge character arc, but
I think he has two, like, a typical shonen arc, in my opinion, because he goes from being like emotionless assassin to like the same emotionless assassin, but like he also now has a sister that's also his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm kind of almost with Connor, where I almost would have rathered him not end up with Estelle, because that whole thing, I never fully vibed with it, I would say.
Right.
On
Okay.
that matter, I have some sympathy with him because when you're old enough and it's like, oh yeah, you're brother and sister now, but I was old enough to acknowledge her as a woman before you said that. So why do you get to decide that for me?
Yeah. Like, it's not really that. No, it's a little weird, but it's not like
It's not
incredibly weird.
egregious.
But I also just don't. I like him as the straight man, like you're talking about, but I don't necessarily love the two of them together. I think that she's the really interesting one, and he's kind of just the kind of sort of boring, dark, mysterious one.
I'm glad we all agree that the relationship is a little weird.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's weird. I just prefer Josette.
So, well, we can save it for Estelle. I was going to ask who do we all want Estelle to end up with, but we could save that. Did anybody have Joshua ranked number 1, or what was the highest somebody had him ranked? I need to know.
The highest he was third place on Alex's list, which kind of makes sense because Alex is like me and also likes edgelords, but he likes them more than me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's kind of funny because I think I might be one of the more positive people on him in this room because I actually feel like I identify with him as a character of being not the most interesting person in the room at any given point in time.
Relate to him, or
yes, relate. That's the word I was looking for. Of being the straight man in the room where people are like, you have to be the one to tone things down. I was in my group of friends. I am the dad of the group if we go out. So,
do you like the voice of reason characters? I guess.
Yeah, I do.
I actually don't remember where I put him on my list, to be honest. Anywhere
You
I put him
had
on the
him
list was just because I
at
liked him in
sixth place.
combat. Yeah, I just thought he was good to use in the fights. That was about the extent of what I really liked him for. That's why I put him on my list.
I think his like origin is pretty funny as far as like going to the Bright family, because imagine just like you're Estelle in your bed at night or something, and one day your dad busts into the door carrying a kid, and he's like, "Hey, Estelle, you have a new brother."
Like, you brought my presents a boy.
That's one of the best lines of the whole game. It's just a great way to open it. My present is a boy? What the heck, Dad?
Did anybody have, speaking of him, did anybody have the dad on their list?
Cassius?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, he's on mine.
Okay, but he didn't. Where did he end up total?
He ended up, Cassius was actually in 13th place.
Oh, so he just missed the cut section.
Yeah,
he's so cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout him out. I really liked him too.
He's so cool. He's just always so elusive as far as the story goes. So it's like, this is a very nice background character, which to me, I put him on my list, but he's not like high enough to like, I would say he's like really a top 10 in the specific arc of the game.
I also got to give a shout out. There's probably another character who didn't make. He almost made my list, but then I took him off because I had forgot a different character. But I did have Weissman on my list for a bit because, well, some people really hate him, but I think you need that character that you hate. That's just like he's pretty much pure evil, but he also has that big twist at the end of first chapter, which people love.
Yeah. Weissman was actually 20th, which is second from the bottom, if you're not counting the tie at the bottom. And he was interesting in the stats wise because he got 3 votes, but not a single person voted him more than like 9th place. So he only got 1 or 2 points per person.
You got to appreciate like a pure evil character, especially in an organization like Ouroboros where people aren't like just completely evil. He's like rotten.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was actually just rewatching a section of Sky the Third to try and remember something for this. And I don't know if I'd call him pure evil so much as just very obsessed with a certain goal and no qualms about how to achieve it.
That's pretty evil in my opinion. I mean, especially given what happens in, I think, Azure. There's that bit with him.
I don't remember.
It's in the. Is it Azure?
Well, we don't spoil Azure because we're just doing Sky. We'll do a crossbow one, but yeah, because I was gonna say there's another character I wanted to relate him to because I feel like mostly Trails villains are very morally gray. So I do like when they throw those occasional like evil ones in there, which I usually would consider him pretty evil. And there's another one too that is in the later arc. But then, like I said, most of the villains, and like you said, Daloofus, Ouroboros, pretty much all the characters or at least morally gray, I would say.
That ties in nicely to our number 4, which is one of the enforcers who has a very troubled past, Ren. Straw, you had her as your number 4.
I think she's gonna be on spoilers, I'm sure, for the rest of the list of the later Trails games. She's gonna probably make most lists if she's in the games or in the series enough, but she is just one of those characters which I was not expecting to even really like, because when she's first introduced in second chapter, I'm just like, oh, this is one of these annoying little kids that's going to be like evil, because you can tell there's more to her than meets the eye.
Yeah, one of the most classic fantasy anime tropes of all times. It's the assassin little girl.
Yeah, and she ends up being one of the main villains from Ouroboros, and then of course she forms a bond with Estelle and Joshua, and you just get to see her kind of grow, and you really get to see her struggle with how to deal with people that just want to generally care and show love to her. And of course, the biggest thing with her is in the third chapter when you get that super dark sun door about her time in paradise, where she just obviously goes through so much abuse and ends up being saved by Joshua and Louve. So they just kind of...
I'm actually pretty sure she's saved by Campanella and Louve.
Is it? I thought it was Joshua.
Joshua was there.
Because I remember seeing an image with Louve and Joshua. I don't think Campanella's there. I could be wrong.
But that's how I thought it was.
I remember definitely Louve, but I'm pretty sure Joshua was there.
Well, you guys can fact check us after this. It's one of those two, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he saves them, and it's just she just grows from there. And then of course, even at the end of third chapter, she's kind of pushing Estelle and Joshua away, which is like one of the final moments. And her story is clearly not done, and you'll get to see in the later arcs as she just continues to grow and be involved in the series. And I'm starting to think, I think a lot of fans think this too, that she might end up being one of the main characters and one of the, if not the final Trails arc, one of the major characters in it. But yeah, just the Angel of Slaughter is a very good character.
I think my favorite thing about her in the context of the Sky trilogy is that she ends up adding that extra layer onto Estelle and Joshua's relationship that turns it into more than just it's the cute couple, they're gonna get together, and then they get together, story ends. And it's like, no, after with Sky Third it goes, and they actually start to have couple problems, like there's this person they care about that they're looking to more or less adopt, and they're having a really hard time reaching out to her, so that becomes kind of their goal as a couple. And I love that they add that layer onto it, and that Ren lets them, is part of that, which is that whole dynamic between the three of them is probably my favorite part of them.
She was number 7 on my list, and honestly, I would have no problem putting her higher. I remember that one day we were having lunch, and you told me about, you gave me a hint of what happens at her door in Sky Third, and I was not prepared for how dark you said it was, and I'm still shocked that they even put that in the game.
Yeah, they censored it in the Japanese version, but somehow, I guess it's just because they have on Steam, they mustn't really have had to rate it, because it never released on PSP in the US, so they never really had to go through ratings, but they just kind of let it go through. I still remember the first time I had seen it, I was just like, I think I had messaged you, Daloofus, I'm just like, this is maybe the darkest thing I've ever seen in any video game. It's like, this was crazy.
And it's really enhanced in Sky Third by how a lot of those doors kind of change the entire dynamic of how the story is told compared to the last 80 hours of gameplay in the trilogy, where it suddenly is perfectly fine using actual visual novel elements of having the full CGs or just text driven stuff. And it's like that gives it that extra layer of alienness and just separation from the story that increases the effect, in my opinion.
I absolutely love Sky Third, and it's definitely my favorite Sky game. And I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I was a big fan of how they did like the narrative, like you said, text dump kind of deal they did with the doors. It was just that sweet lore behind the scenes stuff.
As opposed to like the modern text dump where they just throw a journal at you and say, here, read it.
Yeah.
They actually set the stage to get you in the mood to read it. Not only is it sitting there for when you're ready, but there's also a layer of mystery where you're like, is there going to be gameplay mixed with this, or what's going to happen when I enter this door? So it's a little surprise. And then there's the music, there'll be the sounds, the fun parts of a visual novel. So that it makes it, in my opinion, work. Although I know it is a pretty controversial take.
And this is why I'm really excited for you to play Hajimori or Reverie Daloofus, because it's basically like I feel like it's a better version even than Sky Third, because I feel like they just do everything bigger and better in it than they did.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it. Even though they try to uncover some mysteries in Sky Third, even after you like witness what happens beyond the doors, some things are even a bigger mystery than before.
Right. I know. Like the salt pail.
Yeah. I was literally thinking that same thing. It's like, cool, we get back on the salt pail, and then at the end of it, you're like, that's it?
It's like the most alien thing in the series still, as far as I can remember.
Yeah, they still haven't really... There's still more to uncover.
Wasn't there like a crazy like fever dream one?
Yes, the
like
one
dragon
that
or something?
Yes, the one I theorized was actually watching her memories in limbo. This is the most cracked theory, completely out of left field. But I'm pretty sure that little girl, the orphan in that one of those early Star Doors, I'm pretty sure it might have even been a Sun Door. I'm pretty sure she's dead and we were just watching her go through limbo.
Oh, the one with the dragon?
Yeah.
That
little girl gets lost out in the woods and plays with the baby dragon, and that things just go weird. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's dead.
I'm gonna have to look more into that, because I do remember that, but I didn't really think anything of it when I played it.
I don't think it's a crack theory because there really is no good explanation for that.
I like the innocent view is just that it's like, oh, girl goes on fun adventure in the woods, and that's too. There's too many little subtle things, which is probably just it's me reading too much into accidental details, probably. But I like to interpret it as it just for fun that she is dead, because it makes it the most interesting.
We can actually do a whole podcast on 3. I feel like all these doors. Oh my gosh.
She doesn't really. I don't think. I was trying to remember if any of the orphans show up again later in the series. Do you guys remember?
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
The whole group of characters is just irrelevant after Sky.
For now.
Understandably.
For now, yeah. I was going to say, who knows what Kondo's scheming. It's going to be like the founders of Ouroboros somehow.
We're finding baby dragon, a grown-up dragon.
Yeah.
Don't they find some kind of like unique material in that dream, but like a metal? Am I thinking about this wrong?
I don't remember the details. That was too weird for me to remember little things like that.
I seem to remember some weird connection someone tried to make in a different theory, where they found some mysterious like metal or something the dragon helped her find, and somehow it like makes its way into the Crossveil series. It's probably more crackpot than yours, but up there.
Not to mention the fact that the door shows up in Phantasma, which has taken up part of Gehenna, thanks to Kevin's arm, or Stigmata.
That's true.
That's the other character with the arm.
God, that game was good. Oh man,
it's so good.
And there are people that have the gall out there to be like, oh, you could just skip Sky Third. It's okay.
It's because it's not the same adventure as Sky 1 and 2, and like I get it, but I feel like even though I do like Sky 2 more than first chapter, you go on the same journey. Like
right.
You go through the same towns just without Joshua.
So that's what makes it better, right?
You just would miss so much context, though, and character development, which is like the best part of the series, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the fact that it's the most screen time for Annalise.
Mm.
How could you miss that?
That's true.
Cute as justice.
Cute as justice.
So our number 3 is a very tonal shift from our last character, and he is the dramatic secret prince who is full of flair, Olivier, who Straw had first on your list.
Oh yeah, I love Olivier. Favorite character. I still remember. So I think I knew because I had played Cold Steel 1 and 2 first before I played the Sky games. And I was pretty sure that I did know he was going to be in it. And everybody made such a big deal about it. And I'm like, well, I really didn't like him. I mean, he was okay in Cold Steel 1 and 2, but he wasn't like one of my faves or anything. But just going back, as soon as you see him in first chapter, I feel like that's when the game really gets going too, because you see him in the bar and he's just kind of being like a goof. And then I can't remember what happens after that. I think you're in like a fort or something, and he helps you or something. But just through the whole series, I did know he was the prince because I'd played Cold Steel 1 or 2 first. But if you didn't know that, I could see being surprised. But which it does kind of hint at that even early in the first chapter. But he's such a lighthearted, fun character. He's always just he's looking for beauty is what he's doing. He's kind of like the beauty or the Phantom Thief B parrot, like, because they're like the rivals together, which is kind of funny.
Which is my favorite dynamic about him is that whole kind of philosophical battle that he and Blue Blanc have.
Yes.
Which also makes Blue Blanc one of the villains I like more.
He also has that rivalry with Osborn. Of course, you see in third chapter, it has one of like the most famous scenes where he throws the rose at him as he flies away.
Yeah, he's got that political rivalry with him, but then the philosophical one with Blue Blanc about like what is beauty, and they're both doing all these things to pursue the highest form of beauty, whereas Blue Blanc believes it's in tragedy, and then Olivier believes it's in more wholesome things than that. I can't think of the best way to put it, but I really enjoy that because that's something I can really get behind, is that pursuit of beauty.
Yeah, and like we already did talk about it a little bit too. Like, he's one of the best characters to use arts. He's just casting nukes out there, and of course, one of his best things is his relationship with Shara too, like Daloofus mentioned earlier. And you just continue to see those characters grow together, and he's one of the most important characters across the whole series so far, and he's just my favorite overall. So that's why he was my number 1. Did anybody else put him number 1?
He was number 2 for me.
Yep.
The only other person who had him at number 1 was Cosine.
Nice, Cosine. Great pick.
But yeah, almost. So there was an interesting stat with him, is that he was almost everyone put him in a top 3. There was only 2 people who didn't. No, 3 people who didn't. Everyone had him in the top 5 except for one, which is Ryochi. So I should say of the people who voted for him. Right. So a few qualifiers there, but like if people voted for him, 12 out of like 11 out of 12 of his voters, I'll put him near the top.
I honestly thought he would be number 2. I'm surprised he's number 3, but I know who's number 2 now.
He missed it by 1 point.
Ooh.
Oh, I should have had him higher. I should have rigged the vote. I love him. He's definitely one of my favorites. I just love his comedic relief, especially.
Yeah,
he was my number 3.
He has so many like layers to his brain that I don't think people give him credit for, because he's always got that whole like light Yagami thing in the back of his brain where he's like trying to calculate everything, and then the front of his brain is like, well, I'm just gonna come off as a bard drunk beauty lover. He's doing battle with Osborn, so like he's way smarter than people give him credit for, I think.
I think the fun part about his alter ego is that, unlike, say, a Batman's playboy attitude, Olivier's playboy attitude is the true Olivier. It's all that political stuff that he has to do in the background so he can get back to drinking and playing music.
Yeah, and that's probably why he wasn't like Zach said, he's not as memorable in Cold Steel, because he's not Olivier. He actually has to be like the prince in an official capacity.
Yeah,
for Thor.
makes it more interesting to play Cold Steel after Trails, because then you do get to see that kind of battling side of him.
But in LeBurl, he's just like a tourist. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Any situation that ever arises, he just walks in off screen with his loot.
Pretty much. Shout out to Mueller as well, who just is always like exasperated with him at all times.
Top 10 worst jobs in the world, being his bodyguard.
And unfortunately, not a single person voted for Mueller.
Sorry,
Sad.
Mueller.
Honorable mention.
We only voted for 21 different characters, total out of like 30, 40 plus portraited characters. Who knows?
That's actually a pretty good amount, though.
Yeah, that's a decent spread.
How many people voted?
14.
Okay, yeah, so 14 people to 21. That's a pretty good amount of people. So our number 2, which I'm sure Strya can guess, is the main protagonist of Sky the Third, Kevin Graham, which Connor, you had as your number 2.
Yes.
Ooh, so one spot ahead of me because I had him
my.
at 3.
Yeah, Kevin was, to put it in a short way, like I said earlier, him and Reese are kind of a parallel to Estelle and Joshua in a lot of ways. And if I'm being honest, I liked Kevin's version of the edgy sinner looking for redemption type of character. One, it gets a lot more development since he's got a whole game that's focused on that. So that's probably a little bit of that bias, but I love his personality when he's not in his heretic hunter mode. He's got that fun, not necessarily a playboy attitude, but that kind of, jokestery but clever sort of vibe. His hair was really stupid, but I ended up liking that too. It's just characteristic at that point. He kind of reminds me of, I haven't seen enough of this anime to really make this comparison, but my first impression of him was that he seemed like Vash from Trigun.
He has the same hairstyle, that's why.
There are times when I just looked at the status screen and like his portrait, I'm like, they really okayed that hair.
They really did. But yeah, he's full of surprises. Like I didn't know anything about him when I was playing the trilogy. I didn't know he was in the series. Mm-hmm. So he was the biggest surprise in the entire thing for me, having come from Cold Steel 3 and 4. And him assassinating Weissman right at the end when you do the anime ending and everything.
Badass.
Like, we're going to beat you up, but we're not going to kill you because we're the good guys. And then he comes in the back and uses a freaking chunk of the salt pail to turn him into a statue. And just executions. It's like, whoa, okay, this is a different character than what they made me believe he was going to be. And then you had him basically do Dante's Inferno with Phantasma in Sky Third, which is, to me, really awesome. I'm a little partial towards those more like everything that's related to like the church and or things that are related to that kind of those kinds of stories.
Yeah, I think Arteria is like a super interesting part of the whole lore for me, and I want them to get in on it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole church and the Ouroboros, those are like the two most interesting organizations in Trails to me, because there's so much mystery about it. And I'm still waiting for us to get that game starring an Ouroboros character as the main character where you get to work through them, which would be great, I feel like. But yeah, Kevin's his backstory is great because he has like the tragic backstory, especially with how he got his stigma. Like, he lost the woman he loved and he actually pretty much led to her death, and he killed her in a way, and then he pretty much inherits that power. And then, like you said, Connor, he just kind of goes into heretic hunting mode at times, and he just gets so dark and ruthless.
Yeah, if you like an edgy character, this is your boy. More than Joshua, I think.
Yeah, and like I respect Joshua, but I think they just delivered on that premise better here with Kevin, because they spent more time actually having you walk through some of his guilt with him, where you have more of those scenes and more buildup of him like, oh, this is what happened with him and his mother, which was dark.
Yeah.
And here's what happened with him and his, the woman he loved. And then you actually end up in like the 9th level of hell. And then he's having to meet all these people he killed as part of his job and talk about what happened to them. It's like, oh, geez. And at the same time, though, he doesn't get quite into that woe is me.
Yeah, he just kind of shuts himself off. Like, you can see his emotional pain, especially throughout the whole game, because it kind of starts out more happy, upbeat, like he's more his usual self on the outside. But then as you get further in the game, he starts getting more shut in and starts shutting out all the characters, and you can tell like they start getting mad at him.
Yeah, but it's also that way where he first has that kind of fake shutout where he is closing them off from what he really thinks, but he's hiding all that other stuff in the background in a like effective and believable manner. I think what I was trying to get at is that his reaction to his suffering feels very justified, more so than a lot of characters in the game, which has already got pretty good writing by my standards, but him more so.
I do like the reaction to like him suffering from his grief and all that. He used all that energy to like become the ultimate heretic hunter, so to speak. He just honed his skills so hard. Like he's like that dude at the gym that's like fighting his demons.
Yeah,
just like that's him in the church.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like he was the one who shut out went edgelord on the with the church, and then Joshua went edgelord with the underground dark society, which is another one of those little parallels that is neat that I realized as I was thinking about it.
So on your guys' list, like how much did you how much were your choices changed based off of like other games?
I tried to mostly just keep it what my thoughts were in Sky specifically.
Yeah. I think Joshua's placement in mine, his choice is probably the most colored by I know how he gets later. So I think like I'll bring up Wazzy. I think even Kevin is a better Wazzy.
A little bit, yeah.
Wazzy,
I think serves a slightly different role, but
right.
Yeah, I do really like Wazzy as well. I guess we'll have to think about that when we do our crossspell rankings. But
I will say there's 3 key figures in this game that I probably would have put higher on this list if I was keeping their crossspell appearances in perspective.
Ren, I'm sure.
Ren is definitely one of them. If we're ready to move on to number 1, or do we want to talk about Kevin a little more?
See. Kevin wields a crossbow. That's also really cool, I gotta say, for one of the weapons.
That is fun.
What was one of his crafts? He uses crossbow and a different weapon at the same time. What was that?
I know he has the one craft where he shields everyone, which is a very, very, very useful thing on a lot of boss fights. And then the other one was like the spear of something, but that was more of an abstract weapon. Well, abstract until it was literally raining spears down on everyone.
Yeah, wasn't it his stigma? Like his spears or chains? Yeah, that's what he would use.
I'm just trying to remember what he was like, what I made him do in Sky Third, because there was an attack where I thought he used 2 different weapons, and I thought it was kind of vampire huntery.
Yeah, he definitely gave that kind of vampire huntery vibe, which was another fun thing, especially for us fans of edgelords.
I do feel like Kevin kind of gets, since he's only the main character in one game, he kind of gets looked over when it comes to everybody ranking the main characters. But there are times where I'm like, I might like him more than some of my mainstay main characters that I love. Even with our potential number 1, I'm like, Kevin's just great. But I don't know where I usually rank him in the main characters.
I think he is usually my second favorite, only because of after Haji, I am pretty dead set on considering Reen my favorite of the protagonists.
That's fair.
Well,
currently,
I don't think that there is any drama to who the number 1 is.
Nope.
It was never
a surprise.
Yeah, it was never a doubt in my mind. The main protagonists of Sky 1 and 2, the ever energetic, cheerful, sassy, and total badass Estelle Bright.
Now, I do have one surprise. Of all the characters that were voted for, only one got a vote from every single person. Guess who that was?
Estelle.
No.
Oh.
So wait, somebody didn't vote Estelle?
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Oh
for
yeah,
one
Addie.
vote-
person.
Addie, I'm sure. Well, no, I don't
No?
know.
What is their address right now?
First, who was the character who got at least one vote from everyone?
I would guess Olivier.
Nope.
No, maybe Kevin. Was it
Nope.
Kevin? Oh,
No.
Ren.
It was Ren. Ren was the only one who got a vote from everyone.
Interesting.
Estelle got 13 out of 14.
That's probably the most surprising stat so far.
And now I will let you gesticulate over who here in this room didn't vote for Estelle.
You.
Correct. I
can't
was the
believe you.
one person who didn't vote for Estelle. And hey, would you look at that deviancy score of 78?
Oh,
How did
that's
that happen?
why.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Connor. No,
Not
Estelle.
really. Not really. I'll let you guys gush first, and
All
then
right,
I'll
yeah.
make my
Daloofus.
case.
I know
Daloofus-
Daloofus had her number
yeah.
one, right?
Daloofus
Yeah.
had her number 1 on your list.
So did
So did I.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I had her number 2, so
7 people had her at 10, which was the most 10s out of everyone on the list. No surprise.
first we'll have Daloofus tell us why she's the best, and then we'll ask Connor why he hates everyone.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear that.
The only possible solution to my list is that I hate everyone, of
Yes.
course.
I feel like there's not a whole lot of explanation I need to do, but from my point of view, one of the reasons I love Estelle, and this comes from my experience playing many, many JRPGs or just games in general with like protagonist characters, Estelle is just built different. She's not your normal, like, well-adjusted, straight shooting voice of reason on your team. Like, of course, we look at Reen and he's such a good boy, whatever, and Lloyd, he's such a good boy. Estelle's good, but she is not afraid to be the first one to jump at violence. She's not afraid to literally speak her mind about anything, say what she wants, come up with her own catchphrases, befriend literally everybody she comes across. I very much appreciate her boisterous attitude. That's just a trait I like in female characters in fiction. She's the perfect counter to Joshua, which we all know how I feel about Joshua, because they are literally a foil of each other. And as much as anybody might disagree, they are a good quote-unquote match, even though it's still a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Estelle, she carries you through first chapter, because I think it's the slowest starting Trails game in the series, which it is the first game, but I mean, her personality is very different compared to most main characters. Like you said, she's sunshine, which is what everybody says. She's the sun, while Joshua is the moon.
Yeah, I feel like in other JRPGs, the main character is the one to like initiate a lot of the engaging dialogue, supporting. Like, I'm just going to use like Reen as a minor example. No spoilers, but he's the one to support his friends. He's the one they mediate into. He's sort of their like self-insert, I want to say. And Estelle is absolutely not that at all. She is very much her own character. And I guess another good example would be like Fire Emblem protagonists. So there's Byleth, and everyone just bounces off of Byleth because Byleth can't really talk.
Mm-hmm.
You are Byleth, but engage with Alir. Alir has their own personality. You don't choose for them. They're actually a character. That's why Alir, in my opinion, works out far better. So Estelle having just this very defined, well-written, dynamic personality, I guess, so to speak, is why I love her. And this is the very, very rare time where I would actually put a protagonist at like a number 1 on my spot, because Zach knows I'm a side character kind of guy.
Yeah, Daloofus does not like main characters.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot to point out too that Daloofus also loves to name his creative characters Kevin.
Okay,
it was another reason I knew he would like Kevin.
Look, okay, I'm probably a good bit, not me a good bit, but I'm older than probably all of you here, and I would play Super Nintendo back in the day, and you would name your protagonist back then. And when I was like 7 or 8, I didn't want to call every main character Thad, because I think my name's kind of dumb a little bit. So I'm like, what name do I like? And 7-year-old me is like, oh, Kevin's a cool name. So I called literally every character I could Kevin in any game that I could.
Nice. My first JRPGs were Final Fantasy 7 and 9, where you could name all the party members. So I thought it was just a thing where it's just like, oh, you can just have fun and name them what you want to. So I gave them the stupidest names. Like the first time I beat Final Fantasy 7, Cloud was called XX Silent Snipe XX, because at that point I thought he was a G4 had convinced me in my lack of memory from when I first played it that he was an edgelord. Turns out that's not entirely true. Then I named Tifa Tina Fey. And then Barrett was Mr. T, of course.
Of course. Oh,
and
of course.
Red 14 was Puppy, and so forth and so on. So
how old were you?
Like 12, 13. That was when I replayed.
It was last year, actually. But
I mean, I'm still prone to doing that. Aerith is the only one that's untouched.
Well, by the way, you missed the edgelord by one game, because Squall.
Yes, Squall is absolutely the edgelord of that. Oh my gosh, he's such an edgelord.
All right, Parrot, I think since you haven't talked too much, I know how much you love Estelle, so you need to give us your Estelle thoughts here.
Yeah, I agree with everything the two of you have said. That was a great point Daloofus made, where she is just her own character instead of having all the, like he said, a lot of the times the main character is pretty boring. I'm definitely in the same boat as Daloofus, where I almost never actually like the main characters. You can check out, our Ding and Rompa list. You can see that I never really care about main characters.
Why didn't you call me for that?
I definitely gravitate more toward the side characters because they tend to be the most interesting. But Estelle is definitely the exception to that rule because everything revolves around her. I just love her confidence that she grows into, and she's just like a total badass. And I love how she is kind to everyone, and she's serious when she has to be, but I just love all the scenes of her getting riled up and, getting aggressive with the people, like threatening to punch them, and all of her fights with Olivier. I would honestly say she's probably one of my favorite characters in anything ever.
She's like one of the most quotable characters in Trails, in my opinion.
Yeah, she just has also just amazing portraits.
Her glaring portrait is famous, obviously.
Her ultra violence quote is amazing.
Yes, I will say that is my favorite thing about her through first chapter and second chapter is when she goes full caveman mode on someone. And then that dynamic in the second chapter where she starts to get more like she has that inkling towards starting to get girly as she's thinking about Joshua more. And it's like that was kind of a fun bit of development for her too, because she still has that caveman, but then also a girl.
Yeah, because you can see her outfit totally changes between first chapter and second chapter. Like she definitely gets more like of a girly outfit in second chapter.
What I really like about her is I feel like in most media in general, there is a there's not a lot of really strong female characters. There's more now than there used to be. But in JRPGs, it's definitely not the case. So I feel like she also stands alone in that. So she's very unique for a JRPG protagonist.
It was really bold of Falcom to start the whole series off with a female main character too.
Yep. When did this game come out?
2004-ish.
Yeah, so that definitely was not very common back then.
So wait, Perry, do you mean like there weren't that many strong female characters in JRPGs back in 2004, or like
more just protagonists? I feel like most JRPG protagonists, at least in my experience, is someone that doesn't play like tons of them. They're usually like the generic edgelord male or just self-insert male or whatever. So I just think Estelle is a nice breath of fresh air.
I will say, coming from the West, that might have been pretty more true.
Yeah, I think maybe back then in the West that's probably true, because they're really pumping out the, I'll say quote unquote strong female characters now.
Yeah,
and it's good they are.
It's also a little funny looking back because a lot of Western games just had created characters in the first place, so it kind of was like, who's the strong female protagonist of Oblivion? Well, if I picked female, it's me.
Me, the silent protagonist.
Yeah, so that was a lot of Western games at that time.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the protagonist that actually is their own character. I know that it's fun to self-insert sometimes and make choices, but I just think that Sky in general just shows that with a really strong protagonist, you don't need any of that, in my opinion.
I want to ask a quick question about like a different subject, real quick. So you said you did a Persona tier list, Persona 5 tier list, I'm guessing.
Waifu tier list, yes.
Just a waifu, okay.
Yes, it was a degenerate list.
Oh no, that's the list I want to get in on. But I still can't believe to this day people vote Joker as their like number one favorite character.
I wouldn't vote him as my number one, but like with Joshua, I actually do like I don't see them as self-insert characters. I actually see them as having their own personalities. They're just very subtle ones that I pick up on and seemingly no one else, well, few other people do.
Okay.
I do feel like the Persona main characters have more personality than like Byleth does. Byleth was like the perfect example you used earlier, Daloofus, because he's just like so bland. He really has nothing at all like going on for him, which is just like he's just like a complete blank slate.
I mean, for God's sake, it's canon that they don't have a personality because
he literally doesn't have a soul. Yeah. Which is like why he works for me as a character too. It's like, oh, this is what it's like when a soulless person interacts with society. He basically has to be controlled by another being.
Intelligent Systems was like, how do we write the easiest character? Oh, they don't have a soul.
I think Byleth was actually a fourth wall commentary.
Well, he worked well also in Three Houses because the characters in Three Houses were so strong, like around him at least, where other Fire Emblem games that doesn't always happen. So,
yeah, but we're threatening to turn this into Fire Emblem podcast.
Sorry, Parrot. Again. Parrot always has to get us away from.
I was yearning for
it.
All right, back on topic. Now is your guys' turn to tell us why Estelle wasn't as high on your list.
Yeah, Connor.
Okay, so I will say that Estelle became much higher in my rankings when she became a side character. And that maybe is just something about me, whereas like the protagonist effect wore off. And actually, no, I think I know specifically why. As I already mentioned earlier with Joshua, that I really like characters who, especially main characters, who aren't completely clueless about what's going on. I like Estelle's cluelessness and her caveman-y like aspects. It's just when she's in the pilot seat, there's a bit of a derision between me going, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. Please figure it out. Estelle, I know what's going on. Please, Estelle, please. And then her doing what she does. So once in Sky Third and then later in Crossbell, she's so much more enjoyable for me to witness because she's not in the pilot seat anymore. So I can just enjoy her. And I think the other aspect of it that kept her off my list was probably the fact that I made the mistake of playing Sky FC on hard when I was not prepared for it. Because, oh boy, she's almost useless for like the whole game. She's half your party for half the game.
I did it on normal, and I could also tell you I didn't have a really fun time.
She's her kit through the whole trilogy. And this is why I don't know if like a lot of my gameplay experience probably really colored my placement of her on the list. Because as much as I love her as a character, I just couldn't compel myself to put her on the list. I would have felt fake doing it. I kind of feel like a hipster doing it the other way around, but I'm from the Northwest. So yeah, I'm from the Northwest, so the hipster is the true personality.
I would be worried, though, that Parrot is going to deem you a heretic and hunt you down like Kevin would. So
yeah, I'm coming for you.
It's like I couldn't figure out what to do with her from a gameplay perspective. She didn't have the most power. She didn't have the most magic power. She had good defense. So what I ended up doing with her is she was just a tank / semi-damage dealer with all the healing spells. She was my healer of the party.
I don't even remember how I used her, but the gameplay did not factor into my list too much other than Joshua, since I played on normal and, you know, when I failed the fights, I was just like, yeah, make them easier, please.
I think her like offensive abilities got a little better in 2, but she was an absolute like drag of a character to use in FC.
Her crafts were so bad
like
She was
Whirlwind didn't do that much damage, and it also cost a lot of CP,
And-
so it was just like not really. She had Cheer. Cheer was good, or whatever it was called.
Cheer was pretty good. Yeah, that's why she became the buff character. She just had to survive and resurrect anyone who died if I almost got party wiped. And like that, the Whirlwind would like, she didn't have a very high base movement speed, so she couldn't move into the best position to use it because she had to be at the center of it. And then it pushed everyone away. So you just scattered everyone that you were trying to clump up for the area of effect. And it's like, ah.
It is weird compared to other main characters in the series who are usually one of the best like characters to use for one reason or another.
Yeah, they literally did the opposite with Lloyd, where they said, hey, let's give him a whirlwind attack where he has plenty of movement speed and he sucks everyone in.
Yeah.
You're going to be surprised about my crossbow game experience. Zach might be able to tell you I avoided using Lloyd as much as I could.
Lamau.
But anyway, back to Estelle. So listening to what you said earlier, I think playing with Estelle as the main character and maybe like not having Joshua in 2 takes away from like the intrigue of the game or the mystery of the game, because she's so like caveman unga bunga, like on to next thing, that there's no like dialogue or thoughts as to like what's going on behind the scenes, because there's nothing mysterious going on with Estelle herself. It's everyone else around her.
Which is kind of a nice dynamic, and why I understand why people who really love the adventure kind of classic fantasy feel of first chapter and second chapter, why you would absolutely fall in love with Estelle, because she is an open book in a completely closed book environment. She is the sun in a world of shadows.
Yeah, it's odd because like Estelle's probably the furthest thing from like an edgy character, which is maybe why I kind of prefer her a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with all that, because the edgy characters turn me off more than appeal to me generally. And I definitely have that same mindset just in a story where I'm like, I don't really care about all these dark, mysterious secrets. I'll worry about them when they actually become relevant. I'm kind of just more like, oh yeah, on to the next thing. So maybe that's also why I like her.
Yes. I in a world of daggers, she is a blunt staff that will just cave your head in instead of dissecting precisely.
Yeah, which is what I love about her, I guess.
So I have immense respect for her as a character, but she's not in my top 10.
I'm sorry for your shortened lifespan.
Yeah, Straw Hat, what's his punishment?
I want to say I respect that, but it's okay.
I feel like I'm going to
It's okay.
Get a Russian hacker is going to take the server again by complete random happenstance.
What a weird
Campanella's going to take over the server.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, what was all of your biggest character that got left off the list that made you angriest? Because you already know mine. I already had my Campanella tirade earlier. So
what's the character we are mad didn't make the other list?
Yeah.
Erica didn't actually get in the top 10, and she was my 4th place. So I'm a little salty about that.
I love Erica, even though she has such little involvement. She's such an impactful character.
Yeah, see, yes. I felt guilty I was going to put her on the list too, but I feel like since she's so limited in Sky Third, I was shaping my opinion from later games as well. So I'm like, I don't really feel right putting her on.
I don't know what it was about her. It was just like that one, just basically her role in the early sections of Sky Third. And I was like, yeah, this is one of my favorite characters. Just like that.
She was really funny. For me, we already talked about the 2 that I had that weren't on the top 10, Blue Blanc and Cassius. I had a 10.
Yeah. I think Cassius might be my number 1 which was in top 10.
I had him as my number 8.
So we did our part here, other than Straw Hat.
I did not put him on the list. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He didn't get a lot of high votes. He got a lot of like a 1, 2 2s, a 5, 3, a 5, a 6.
Is there anybody else we want to mention that did get votes from other people before we go?
What's the other girl's name in Ouroboros? She always gets forgotten because I forgot her name. Sharon's mentor.
I can't remember her name either.
Luciola.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, I didn't even remember her enough to put her on the list of forgotten characters on the
She's
graphic I
one of
made.
the 3 Ouroboros in the game, in the Trails, Sky, I mean.
Yeah, I do really like Walter. I know Daloofus brought him up as well. I liked him way more than Zen, like he said.
Yeah, Walter was a lot of fun. He gets even more fun later on. I'm sad no one voted for Ina, which includes me, but I believe she needed at least one
Yeah,
vote.
she is great.
You're gonna
For
hate me, but who's
reference.
Ina? I forget.
The one who wins
I was
all the
about to
drinking
say
contests.
she's the attendant at the Bracers Guild.
Oh, okay. The Roll-Ent person, or
Yeah,
okay.
the starting town. Yep, she's
I
great.
forgot about her.
What's the other Chloe's chief officer? Her
Julia.
She
didn't
Julia.
get any votes.
And what about the other reporter?
Neil.
Neil.
I liked him.
Actually,
I liked him more than Dorothy.
of the slightly higher ones. He was in 16th place with 12 points.
Wow, that's more than
I
I
had
guessed.
him up as, I think it was either in my
Looks like you have him
9th
9
or 7th position.
Wow, you have him over Estelle, huh?
Yes. The real clincher was I had Josette as number 10.
Oh,
that was
no.
that was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the bit. I like Josette more than Estelle.
You're going to get assaulted on the Discord server by everybody.
The Russian hackers are coming.
You can't see it, but my head is in my hand.
Yeah, same actually. Before we go, I was just curious, what is the difference between number 1 and number 2 points wise? Was it close at all?
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring those up. So Estelle is 121 points and Kevin is 97. So she won by a landslide, because then the next position down is only 1 point difference with Olivia at 96. Ren was 76, Joshua was 45, Chloe and Annalise were 44. So there was almost a 3-way tie there. Agate was 37, Reese 36, and Lowe at 34, or Louve at 34. And only 2 characters got 1 point, Dorothy and Josette.
You know what? They would have both made my top 15 if we did 15.
No.
But Gilbert would have made yours. Which...
Yes, he would have.
Oh my god.
Gilbert, Josette, Dorothy. That's where my list would have went totally off the rails, and I would have spiked all the way to the right on Connor's chart. I would have been closer to him instead of the normie.
You know what? I think next time what we'll do is we'll have an 11th slot, but it's a negative point.
Oh, we put our most hated character?
Yes, because that would have been perfect for Gilbert.
Yes.
Everyone could have just sent F you, Gilbert, and then he could be the only one with negative points, and that would have been hilarious.
Actually, that would be pretty fun.
I still might do it for the next list anyways.
I'll have to think who I hate as much as Gilbert and Crossbell.
Yeah, we're doing Crossbell next?
We probably at some point, yeah.
Once a good amount of the server gets through Azure, we're going to go ahead and run a Crossbell poll as well.
Oh, so we have people yet to play it. Okay.
Yeah, since it's finally coming out officially this month.
March 14th.
Yep, so it will be out by the time any of you hear this.
Hope you're enjoying the best Trails game.
You think it's the best Trails game?
I would put it as my number 1 right now if I had to choose.
Zero is currently my favorite.
I was very pleasantly surprised at how much I liked Azure. But I think Cold Steel 4 might still be my favorite.
Ooh.
Nice. That's a rare take.
Is it?
I respect it, though. Cold Steel 4 being the favorite?
It's so popular to hate on Cold Steel 4 right now, which I think I would put it as my 3rd favorite right now, so...
It's funny, it's definitely not my favorite, but I actually don't know what people are talking about when they say that there's the really weak arc or second act or whatever.
It's where you have to go rescue everybody, pretty much, over the different towns you have to go to, which we don't really want to get into details, but...
Wait, the second act in Cold Steel 4, or...?
Yeah. It's where you have to, go to the different areas and, you rescue a set of characters. You go through you have to do it, 3 times.
Oh, yeah, that. I thought that was part 1. Maybe I'm not remembering.
No, it's after a certain character comes back. So
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't remember it being that one of my problems. But I also don't have any real pacing problems with Cold Steel 2 either. So
I love 2. I don't know what people are on.
yeah,
2 was great.
I feel like I said, I feel like in a few years people are gonna love the Cold Steel games. I just feel like it's the hipster thing to hate them more than the rest right now. So
the hipster thing is to like them again now because I like them and I am the hipster.
It's all hinged on you whether you like them.
I'm from the Northwest. Thank you very much. We have a monopoly on hipsterism.
Okay, well you're the
Just kidding, sort of.
anyway, I guess that will do it for our Sky poll, right, Parrot?
Yeah. Thanks to Daloofus for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you'll be back again for some more Trails episodes.
I would love to, as long as you guys didn't think I was obnoxious.
No, it was great.
We need you because I am not the expert that you are. I've only played a few of them, so I have to step up my game. That will wrap it up for us. Join us for our next episode in a few weeks where we'll just be doing our general backlog discussion. So until then...
Actually, Parrot, before that, I think we're going to do a special Banjo-Kazooie episode where we're going to discuss Banjo, because Connor has played it for the first time, and Parrot and I, of course, love the game, so we could always talk about Banjo, but that will be a bonus episode this month.
Yep. So we're going to have that, and then our general backlog discussion episode. So we'll find out if Connor hated Banjo as much as he hated Estelle.
Daloofus loves Banjo also, just so you know, right, Daloofus?
You know the story about why I didn't beat it, right?
Oh, yes, you did. You could tell it if you want.
Like right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, why not? Straw can cut it if he doesn't want it.
So me and my nephew were really close, and he was much younger than me. And this was back when like 64 games were still the thing. And my sister, his mom bought him Banjo-Kazooie, and he was kind of like too young to actually comprehend how to play it. So I would play it for him, and I had a lot of fun. It was a fun game. So I played through the game two times. I got both times I got to the like spooky area land with like Halloween Town. I don't even know what
Mad Monster Mansion.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I got that far in the game, and somehow my nephew managed to delete the data twice.
Oh no!
As they do. They do.
Because in Banjo-Kazooie, for some reason, it was exceptionally easy to do that. All he had to do was highlight the save and push Z, and it deleted it.
Yep,
and
I remember that.
Being like a 6 or 7-year-old that he was, he hit Z and then A, and it was gone twice.
That was always the struggle with any of my friends with any of the old cartridge games. My brother and I, surprisingly, were actually pretty good about it with each other. We were both pretty disciplined about not deleting each other's saves. But anytime a friend's like, "Oh, can I go play that game?" There's that thing in the back of my mind going, "I don't know if I trust this guy. I'm pretty sure they're going to wipe it." Sure enough, like 10% of the time, they ended up wiping a save.
Just tragic.
Rip.
Tragic.
What the heck, man? How are you all such fools?
So, look forward to our wonderful Banjo discussion, and, fingers crossed on Connor's opinions on it. We'll see if he's right or wrong, because there is a right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, oh no. So until then, we will catch you later.
Sayonara.
Later.
Bye-bye.